All right, hey guys, and welcome back to another Behind the Discussions video, which I usually do, obviously, after each of my discussion videos. Well, something I'm trying to do more of. And this one will probably be a little bit shorter. There's not too much I wanted to go over. I just wanted to do some fun behind the scenes, what stuff got worked on, some cut content, and just sort of talk about that. Just some fun behind the scenes stuff. So, first of all, I'm on the page for the script. I usually am when I do this kind of stuff. And I just want to say this is the longest script I've had for a video. I could have gone longer, but we're looking at about 15 pages, which doesn't seem like a lot. And to be honest, it's really not. But what I tend to do is write out stuff like this, right? Like you have this little paragraph thingy here, but then I add onto it. Like it's more of an outline, which is why I call it a script outline, because then I just kind of add on to it as I read. But this was the longest one I've had so far, and it was actually complete because my Silverized one I didn't finish, and there was a whole hullabaloo there. This one I actually did finish, so that was a plus, and it was the longest one. Now there is some stuff on here, and we'll get into this now, the cut content stuff that didn't, make it into the video. So first of all, I was gonna have a summary section, which I didn't put a lot on here because I was gonna obviously add to it. But I removed the summary section because one, the video is already long, right? It's already over an hour. And two, I kind of felt like it was better to not include a big summary, even though it would be more helpful for people to kind of understand things. I like to leave things a little bit more mysterious, so I felt like not having a summary kind of made things a little bit better and kind of worked to, you end off the story and then you kind of just go right into the end of the video. I just feel like that works a little bit better than throwing something else in there and then ending the video off. So it was just sort of more for balancing and stuff like that. So I didn't include that. And probably the biggest thing that was cut from the video was the confrontation finale-esque scene, which was going to actually be a full animated with dialogue and stuff like that. But time constraints and some other stuff that came up didn't allow that to happen, which is fine. I think in the end it makes sense that that part wasn't a separate like animated scene, because it kind of just worked better to read through the whole story as it was and not interrupt it with a big scene and then go back for like the very end. Like it just sort of flowed better to not include it. And again, like I said, there is a bunch of time constraint and stuff like that, so it didn't get included. It was going to have dialogue, all the lines were recorded, and all that kind of stuff, and I just didn't find a good place to use it. So that was probably the biggest thing. And one of the lines was technically not cut because I used the puppet was going to talk, well, Sammy / the puppet was going to talk, and I used that in one of my little creepy teasers. So technically that line didn't get cut, but the rest of it I didn't use and just sort of included as part of the story. So that's probably the biggest thing. And hopefully this sort of scenario won't happen in the next one, because I am going to include a finale scene in the next one, but it's going to be a little bit more simple. So that was probably the biggest change, I guess you could say. But all in all, I mean, the video did face some delays and production issues that I've learned from and is going to continue to use for the next video. But all in all, it actually wasn't the worst. I did have to do a bit of reshooting because we didn't include that finale scene, so there was a bit of like last minute reshoots. This is why it didn't come out right away, like yesterday. It didn't come out earlier, so there was some stuff there. But all in all, production on this video was a lot smoother than it was on the last one, I'm gonna say. So it was pretty good. I'm happy with how it turned out, and that's really about it for all of the behind the scenes stuff. I do want to kind of talk about some, not summary things, but sort of some of the larger changes, I guess you could say, that are going to be more influential for the next video. So one thing I did keep was Robo Charlie, is what I call her, at the end of the story. And I have my reasonings for that. So as much as I don't like the whole Charlie's a robot and Robo Charlie thing, I like the ending of the Twisted Ones, where it sets up this story of it's not actually Charlie, and we're gonna have to figure out what happened to her. I like that. I just think the fourth closet went about a horrible way of doing that. So that's why I kept it, because I have a good story for that. Obviously, I'm not going to share that here. But that was one thing that I wasn't sure I was going to keep, but then, you know, I finally decided I was going to. So that was one of the, it was probably the closest actual tie-in. Like, the only stuff from my rewrite that was actually from the original Twisted ones is when they go on their date to the Thai restaurant and then they go to the movie, and like the very end of the book. Those are almost the exact same. Everything else I changed because the rest of the story sucked. So those are kind of the major things. I don't really know where I was going with that, but I just thought I'd bring that up with like the ending and the very start were pretty much the same, except for the Twisted ones attacking people. That's not in the book. So the actual like Charlie and John and then the very end were the same. But the reason I changed a lot, so the ending had the underground pizzeria and all that kind of hullabaloo, but the reason I changed it is because, one, there's no setup, and two, it's never shown or talked about ever again. Like, it doesn't come up in the fourth closet of like why there was this big restaurant underground. It just is there for a set piece and then it goes away. So I changed it to have more setup by them seeing the bunker earlier, and I set it up very much that it is the sister location bunker. I kind of feel like I made that fairly obvious with all the little hints I gave towards it, but the idea was that now there's sort of a set piece that may or may not come back in my fourth closet rewrite, and it's not just going to be forgotten, right? So there's this actual setup to the location that they kind of fight at the end, instead of it just being like, all of a sudden Charlie's underground, and then all of a sudden, you know, Afton shows up, and then he's gone, and then the whole place collapses, and then it's never talked about again. Like, it just sort of comes out of nowhere. So I tried to give it a bit more setup for mine, and I think all in all, while there's some things I maybe could have done better, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect person. I could have done some things better. I think all in all, in the end, I do think that it was a generally better story. And I'm not, you know, I'm kind of patting myself on the back a little bit for that one. But like I said, I'm not perfect. But like, boy, was the Twisted Ones book actually really bad. So I think I did a better job. And that's really about it. Yeah, that's all I really want to share. I don't really want to share too many spoilers for the next video, because, you know, I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but it's going to be good. I think it's going to be interesting for you guys. That's all I'll say. And I don't know how I don't know how well you'll receive it, but I think it's going to be interesting. So I'll leave it on that. And, yeah, that's really about it for all these behind the scenes for this video. There really isn't much to talk about. And, yeah, we're just going to kind of end things off. You know, I won't do anything crazy, but I will do some questions. So your 2 questions of the day. I always like to do 2 questions of the day. Question number 1. Are you... I don't have any questions, really. I didn't think this through. Are you surprised that the script is 15 pages? Did you think it was going to be longer or shorter? So I'll answer that question. And question number 2, what is your favorite pizza topping? So those are your 2 questions. Answer those down below if you made it this far in the video. And at that, thanks for watching. I hope you kind of found this a little bit fun. And I will see you in this week's gaming video, which I didn't have one last week. We're having one this week. So I'll see you then. And yeah, goodbye.